Hi, my name is Cami. Welcome to Classics and Cats. Okay, so today what we're going to do is talk about the books and movies that I consumed in June. I realize it's October. So behind. But I still wanted to get this up because I did read these books and I did watch these films and I want to share my thoughts. So I thought I would go ahead and do it. Better late than never. Let's not forget the old adage. It's true. So let's just get right into it. So for June, books that I read in June, I read three novels and one very short story. And I realize that's not a lot. I don't get to read a ton, and it's sad and heartbreaking, but it is the way it is. So I'm just going to share what I'm able to read. So I've got 3 books and 1 short story, and the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So this was back in June, so I'm going to do my best to remember what exactly I read. It's been a hot minute. But okay, so I'm sure everybody's heard about Matt Haig. It's been all over the booktube world. So it's basically about a girl who wishes to no longer be part of this world. So she does the ultimate deed to end her life. And when she dies, she actually is between life and death. So she's lived this life. She feels like she, made all the wrong decisions and got to this bad place where she doesn't want to be and she doesn't know how to get out of it. So when she arrives at the Midnight Library, it's between life and death. So she hasn't fully died, but she's no longer alive. But what hangs in the balance is her ability to maybe choose to go back to life or to go on to what lies after. So ultimately what happens is she enters the Midnight Library that is run by her old librarian from school that she had a sweet moment with in her youth. And this woman is leading her through the library, and it is full of books, and each book contains a different life that had different decisions. So it's an infinite number of books. Obviously, your life, every single decision that you make every single day can lead to a different path. So this library is full of every single decision she could have ever made and where it took her. So she goes through this library, and what she does is she selects a book. She opens a book, decides to enter that life, and she gets to experience what life would be like in that life. So she arrives at one, and she experiences where her decisions have gotten her to. And, sometimes she gets to a life and she's like, wow, this is amazing. And then she realizes, but wait, these people that were actually good in my original life are no longer here. Like, what happened? And then so she leaves that life. That's not the one for her. She picks a different life, and in this one she, has the career that she wanted, but not the people, or the people, not the career. It's like she keeps picking and choosing, trying to find the perfect life. And so it's the journey through all those decisions, and it's, kind of a reminder of where our decisions take us. And it was very sweet. It's a very fast-paced read. It's easy to get through. What did I rate it on Goodreads? I'm not sure what I rated it on Goodreads. I will insert it somewhere in here so that you can see, but it was definitely an enjoyable read. I'm not sure I would say it made it to the top of my books, but I did enjoy it. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, which it definitely did to me, go ahead and give it a read and see what you think. The next book I read is definitely a new favorite, and it is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. And this book was so good. I can't even tell you. It was just really different than anything I read. It was very raw. Like, it was written like, this is the facts. This is what happened. This is my day. I did this and this and this. And it's written from I'm not sure it's written from the perspective. I think it's told in third person. But it's about this young girl and her life, her childhood, growing up in Brooklyn with an alcoholic father that struggles to hold down a job. Her mother works very hard to keep them going. They do all adore their father, though. He's one of those people that knows everyone. Everyone knows him. They like him. They like his personality, but everybody kind of looks at him as a joke. And it's about them growing up in this life where it's a constant struggle. And I think it's in the early 1900s in Brooklyn, and it's this girl and her brother, her mother and her father that all live in this apartment building, and her mother cleans for a living, and sometimes her father helps and he'll bring home a wage. His main source of income is as a singing waiter, but he can't make it to all of his gigs sometimes because of his alcoholism. And it's just how their relationships all intertwine, and how her relationship with her mother is, her relationship with her brother, what it's like to go to school and be viewed, as a poor young girl, and with the lifestyle that she's being raised in. And I can't say like it's about this, because it's not plot driven. It's definitely character driven, and it's about this girl, and it's just it's so moving. It's very touching. And I think, I'm not sure how people feel about it. Two people in my life read it recently when I did, and one really liked it and one really hated it. So I think, it just depends on, what attracts you to reading. But for me, this book was, I think I cried at the end of the book. It was very touching. And so you get to know this character, Francie, you get to know her struggles. And, her and her brother like collect kind of garbage, like tin cans and things, and go to sell it to, at a shop. And, Francie's very intelligent. She likes to learn. She wants to grow up, go to college. And it's very moving. You really see what she deals with, what her and her brother deal with, the prejudice that they experience. And I don't know, I can't, there's not much you can say about it, because like I said, I can't say a lot. A lot happens, because it's this, it's kind of the story of her life from ages like 10 to 20 maybe. So it's about a decade of her life, and actually it's probably even earlier than that, but anywho, it's very good. It's things that I think probably a lot of women can relate to, as far as like her experiences, with love and relationships. And it's probably, I think everybody might be able to pull some familiarity out of what Francie experiences. But anyway, it was a beautiful book. 5 out of 5, new favorite. Another book, The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. And this book, it was just okay. So I was kind of expecting it to be about, what people think the intelligence level of octopuses are. And yes, that is the plural of octopus. So, that's kind of what I was looking for. I wanted to learn what people have their interactions with octopus and octopuses. That sounds so bizarre. What their experience has been with them, and like studies that have been done and research to discover like what we think they know and can learn and think and feel. And I'm just really interested in that. And that's what I thought it was going to be more about. But it was really more about this woman who kind of worked at an aquarium, and how she felt about the octopuses there, and the different ones she interacted with. But it wasn't very like, I don't know, it wasn't what I expected. So I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it definitely wasn't what I was looking for. And I listened to it on audiobook. I think the narration was great. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. It was just okay. I really wanted to feel like a close connection with the creatures. And it was very interesting, because they just seem so misunderstood, and I want to understand them. And I guess that's what I was looking for in the book, and I didn't feel like I got it. But there were still cool things that I learned about them. Their anatomy, what types of things they can do, what experiences other people that work at aquariums have had with them being able to sneak out of a room. They can like climb out and like open a door. I just think they're like weirdly intelligent, and people don't realize it. And I just think I love that anyway, that people are trying to understand that animals and creatures are more than what we think. We think, oh, well, we talk and we build, and so we're just, we understand everything, but we don't. Like, we don't know what they're, they have communities, they have families, they have attachments and understanding, and they can learn. And that's, so I like learning about that, about animals. And octopuses are one that I like heard a story about once, and I was like, wow, I want to learn more about that. So that's what I was looking for with this. I just didn't get it with this book. So I'll keep hunting. And then my short story that I read was Hills Like White Animals. Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway. And this was a very short story. I think I listened to it. I think they probably had it narrated on YouTube. So I listened to that, and I listened to it a couple times. And it was good. It was, it's basically a conversation that a man and woman are having on a train. And you're kind of reading it, and it's like, what's going on? You know, you're trying to figure out like what they're talking about, because they're not saying anything directly. You kind of have to interpret what they're talking about. So afterwards, I wasn't really sure. Like, it was one of those things that is like, it was very cerebral. So I'm like, am I really understanding what they're talking about or what they're alluding to? And so I went and I looked it up, like what people that have studied this, what their interpretation was. And they're basically talking about this woman having an abortion. So yeah, I found it very interesting, kind of heartbreaking actually. It was very sad because it felt very one-sided, and like there was pressure. And it was kind of disturbing, honestly. But I mean, I think maybe it's an important thing to read. So yeah, it's Ernest Hemingway. So, and it's quick, fairly painless. So, give it a listen if that sounds interesting. I think I listened to it a few times, and each time I listened to it, like, it just felt sadder and sadder, because you could tell the woman was not, she's trying to get from the man, like, maybe we don't have to do this, and she's just not getting that. She's definitely pressured into having this procedure done, and it was just very heartbreaking. And there's a lot of symbolism throughout this little short story. So if you like that kind of thing and studying points of literature, I think you would really enjoy that, kind of trying to piece it together and read into those things. Okay, so on to the movies. Okay, so for the movies that I read way back in June. So the first one, did I just say the movies that I read? That's not what I meant. I definitely watched them with my eyeballs. So the first one I'm going to talk about is How to Murder Your Wife. It's a comedy. So this movie has Jack Lemmon and Verna Lisi. I think she's an Italian actress. She's a bombshell. So yeah, watch with caution. Yeah, it's just a screwball comedy. I didn't love it. It was okay. It was fine. I'm not even sure how it came up on my radar, but I think I might have watched it on YouTube. I think it might be available on YouTube, if I'll put yes or no. But I'll link it down below if it's available. It also has Sidney Blackmer, who was the grandfather in, no, not grandfather. He was the father in Tammy and the Bachelor. If you've seen that movie with Debbie Reynolds, which I love that movie. It's so beautiful. If you've seen that movie, Mr. Brent is, when she stays with Pete's family, Mr. Brent is Pete's father. And so I love his voice. He's got a very distinctive voice. So he's in that film. But then he's also the obnoxious grandfather in 16 Candles with Molly Ringwald. So if you're a fan of Sidney Blackmer, he's also in this film. Small part. But yeah, so it's got Jack Lemmon and Verna? Yeah, Verna Lisi. And what happens is he kind of accidentally finds himself married after a wild night, and he wakes up with this bombshell of a wife who's, wonderful and trying her best to make this marriage work. She seems to really love this guy. And after a while, he just seems annoyed with her. He's lived this bachelor lifestyle. Him and his man servant, man butler, they've kind of had this chummy bro lifestyle, and he's lived this bachelorhood lifestyle, and so now he's sad to not have it anymore. All of a sudden, there's girly, frilly things all over his house. He just can't stand it. And so he writes this comic strip for a living. That's his job. And as his marriage is going along, all of a sudden, the character in his comic series is mimicking his life. So it's kind of a mirror image, and so it's cute. People love it, that now this bachelor character is now married. and all the hilarity that happens with that. He kind of uses her and his experience for inspiration for his comic strip. And then so after a while, he's like, I got to get rid of this girl. So one of his comic strips is like how to get rid of your wife. And so this character on his comic strip is plotting to murder his wife. And so I think she sees it and is upset by it. And so she disappears. And so, of course, he's like, I'm so glad she's gone. And, then it's about like if he's going to try to get her back or not, if he really misses that his bachelor lifestyle, or if he really misses his wife. So, like I said, it's cute. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, black and white. But yeah, so if that sounds interesting to you, or you're a big fan of Jack Lemmon or Verna Lisi, darn it, then yeah, maybe give it a watch. And then from 1969, I watched Sweet Charity with Shirley MacLaine, and this film was directed by Bob Fosse, which if you were ever in the dance world, you will recognize that name as a world-famous choreographer. So this is a musical, Sweet Charity, and I think maybe I did see the film a long, long time ago, but I didn't really remember. Some parts were like, oh, that looks familiar. But if you know the song, Hey Big Spender, which I didn't realize was from this film, which I also believe is a stage play. I'm not sure which came first. I apologize. But if you recognize that song, that is from this film. And I loved that part. I love that song. It was very catchy. And yeah, basically this movie is very sad. It's about this woman named Charity who I forget what they call it. It's some kind of like dance hall girl. But what they do is men come in and pay like an overhead fee to get into this club, and then they choose to dance with a woman, and they pay money to dance with these women. I don't know. The times, they have changed. But anyway, so, it's got Shirley MacLaine. I love Shirley MacLaine. And I think at some point, and so it's about her trying to find love. She desperately wants to fall in love and be in love. And so she just keeps falling for the wrong men. And it's just tragedy after tragedy. And it's so hard to watch. But it's cute, especially if you love musicals. If you love Shirley MacLaine, I would give it a try. So it was okay. It's not one that I'm going to put on my favorites. I absolutely loved it list. It was okay. I'm glad I've seen it. Yeah, and I do love Shirley MacLaine, but that wasn't one of my favorites with her. I would say Can, if you like musicals, dancing. If you've ever seen the movie Can, it's got Frank Sinatra and Shirley MacLaine, and that one's a good one. But I didn't watch it in June, so why are we talking about it? Lost my train of thought. And then from 1934, I watched that version of Imitation of Life. There's a couple different versions, but I watched the 1934 version, and that one is in black and white. And it features Claudette Colbert and Louise Beavers. And I really loved this one. So it's funny because I actually bought like a dual, do I have that? Maybe I have it somewhere. No, I think I put it away. But it's one of those, it's got two versions on the DVD. And so one is the color version, and gosh darn, I can't remember who's in it now. I know I bought it because Sandra Dee plays the daughter in the modern colorized version. More modern, it's from like the 50s. But I bought it for that, and then it was a double feature. It had this old black and white version with Claudette Colbert and Louise Beavers. So I was like, I hadn't really seen that one. So I was like, oh, I'll give that one a try. And I think I like that version better. It was so good. So if you don't know the story of Imitation of Life, it's basically this widowed woman and her daughter, she's just kind of struggling to make ends meet, and a black woman comes to her home and is looking for a job, and she's like, I don't really have anything. And this woman's like, well, I have a little girl too. She's like, I could cook and clean for you, and if you can just give us a place to live. And so they work out a deal, and so these two women live together and raise their daughters together. And as they grow up, the Louise Beavers character, her daughter passes for white. And so, it's in a time where, well, that was dangerous, first of all, to portray yourself as a white person, if you were actually, black. And so it's it's very moving. It's very hard-hitting film, and you just see the different relationships of all these women, and the way race and friendship and blurred lines and identity. I think all of those things are featured in this film, and it's really, really good. So I would say, even if you're not really a fan of Louise Beavers or Claudette Colbert, which I don't know how you couldn't be a fan of either one of them, but just in case you're not, I think it's a really important film to see. I think it might have been one that was like added to, not the National Treasury, the Library of Congress, because they felt like it was an important film to be secured and safe for a long time. So yeah, I would definitely give that one a try. And if you want to see the colorized version, oh, Lana Turner, that's who's in the more modern one. That's from like the 50s or 60s, but it's got Lana Turner, and Sandra Dee plays the daughter, and I can't remember who else is in that film, but it's very good as well. And it's funny because I think the woman that played the black daughter, she spoke out, and she was like, look, this is just a role. She was like, don't get confused. I don't want to be white. And she's like, I'm just playing a role. So I think that was also a very important message at the time too, to young black women. So it's a really important film. I definitely recommend that one. That one was amazing. And then from 1947, I watched The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. This is a wild one. It's got Barbara Stanwyck and Judith Anderson, Van Heflin, and Kirk Douglas. And I apologize, I hate Kirk Douglas. I am a huge fan of Natalie Wood. I've loved her since I was a child. And if you've read any of her biographies or anything about her, you will understand why I hate Kirk Douglas. So it's very difficult for me to watch any movie with him in it. But I wanted to see this film, so I just grinned and bared it. Even though I hate to offer any support to any film he ever did. But anyway, like I said, it's got Barbara Stanwyck and Judith Anderson, which Judith Anderson was Mrs. Danvers from Rebecca, the black and white version. So if you've ever seen that one from, what is that? I forget what year that came out, but who else is in that? Darn it, my mind is not working for me. It's kind of late. I just woke up from a nap. I'm just not sure. But anyway, so The Strange Love of Martha Ivers is basically about this girl. When she's young, she lives with an aunt, and this aunt is very overbearing, and they have a very toxic, kind of rough relationship. Well, something happens to her aunt when she's when she's a young girl. Not when the aunt's a young girl, but when the niece is a young girl, and she dies, and it's very sad. Well, there's two young friends that may or may not have witnessed what happened to this aunt. So it's about what happened to them in their youth, and then as they're adults, like how their lives intertwine again later on as adults. So it's very good. It's about, like I said, it's about this girl and her two male friends, where their lives take them, and how this one event kind of ties them all together later in the future. Very good. It's kind of it's a bit of a thriller. So if that sounds good to you, check it out. Then also from 1947 was The Red House, and this had Edward G. Robinson, Aline Roberts, and Lon McAllister. Which Lon is just the cutest name ever, isn't it? I think that was in The Notebook. That's why I like that name, Lon. Yeah, that's a very cool name. But anywho, so The Red House, this one's definitely a thriller. It's in black and white. And it's basically about this brother and sister. They're older, and they are, I think also, wait, Judith Anderson is in this one too. And she was Mrs., like I said, she was Mrs. Danvers in Rebecca. But anywho, so Edward G. Robinson and her are brother and sister. They're older, and they're raising an adopted child that they adopted together. And you know, she's kind of vague on, you know, where she came from, how she came to be with this family. And there's like, they own this large property, and her adoptive father is always telling her to stay out of the woods. She's not ever allowed to go into the woods. Well, then she's a teenager, and she meets this boy that she likes, and they kind of develop this friendship. And at some point they do go into the woods. I think he's intrigued by this, and so they go into the woods, and what they find there kind of gives them clues as to where she came from and what her history is. So like I said, it's a thriller. It's it's a 1947 thriller, so you can't put it by today's standards, but it's very good. It's pretty creepy, and yeah, so a good film to watch in the spooky season. So for October, September and October, which I'm sorry I missed September, but yeah, so maybe give that one a try. Okay, and the last film I watched was from 1957, and it's called My Man Godfrey. The version that I saw was in black and white, and it featured David Niven and June Allison. There also is a 1936 version, and it's got William Powell and Carol Lombard, but I haven't seen that one. So 1957 version. So these are both based on a short story called 1101 Park Avenue. And so basically the premise of this film is that this rich, very wealthy family goes on a scavenger hunt for a party. And one of the items on the scavenger list is to find, I believe, like a homeless man. So one of the daughters finds a homeless man, brings him to this party, and I think they find out that he's not actually homeless, or maybe they don't find that out for a while. But they take him to this party. He kind of makes a big statement to these wealthy people about how disgusting they are, for all their extravagancies and everything. And so I think this daughter is kind of intrigued by this guy. She offers him a job, so he comes to live in their home as their butler. And over time, she develops a relationship with him. And I think her sister also is trying to kind of get in on this relationship. She's trying to steal him, I think, a bit. So it's the dynamics between these two sisters, and then their relationship with this man Godfrey, and also finding out who he actually is, because he might not just be some homeless guy. So yeah, it's very cute. Cute little movie. If you like June Allison or David Niven, I think you would enjoy this film. So that's everything that I watched and read in June. I am so sorry it's so late. I promise I will try to be better. So I hope you're all doing well. Let me know if you've seen any of these films or read any of these books. Comment down below so we can chit chat. And I hope you're doing well. Remember, be kind to yourself as well as others, and always be kind to cats. Thanks. Bye.